There is such a thing as the predatory masculine and the predatory feminine. This is not just narcissistic masculine or narcissistic feminine, and it's not just toxic narcissism or toxic of the masculine or toxic narcissism of the feminine. These are predatory dynamics that human beings operate from that are more than competitive. They're predatory. They're destructive. They're abusive. They're violent. And they exist both in men and in women in some part of ourselves. We would suggest that in every human being, male or female, there is some dimension of predatory tendency. Predatory tendencies are blind, they're destructive, they're consumptive, they don't love, they don't care, they don't feel, they just devour or destroy. If we continue to operate from these dimensions of human process, then predatory dynamics will be validated or rewarded or ignored, or we'll look away from them in horror or disgust rather than transforming them. There are dynamics of narcissism, and in their extreme, what we might term toxic narcissism, both in men and women. Sussing out the details of how those are expressed is necessary, because if you don't know you're living from that, you can't functionally change it. You can't make a choice. Self-awareness is the beginning of all evolution and attainment of consciousness. So collaborative focus on the greater good cannot occur if narcissism is the defining, determining, domineering, competitive dynamic of our world. There is a wounded masculine and a wounded feminine. They tend not to be able to see each other's pain and suffering. When we're in our pains and in our wounds, we become often incapable of loving or caring about anybody else and only focusing on our own pain, as if that was all that mattered. So learning to transcend our woundedness comprehensively is key and core for us to be able to collaboratively work together. If we're focused on our personal or collective wounds, whether it's our own individual traumas or the traumas of our gender, our race, our nation, our religion, or our peer group, then we become obscured in a polarized positionality, and we become unable, disempowered to work towards the collective good. We're not suggesting ignoring people's wounds. We're not suggesting riding roughshod over people's existing traumas. We are suggesting that if we don't work diligently to resolve our wounds and to become willing to do so, because some people remain stuck in their wounding. They want to be forever wounded so they can remain forever victims, forever powerless, and forever non-self-accountable, and thus forever non-learning and non-evolving. That's a free will choice. It's not a wrong thing. And men do this and women do this. Human beings do this. Whole nations do this. We got to get past these tendencies. We can only get there by conscious choice and collective collaborative effort. We have tendencies to project onto each other all of these energies and identity management dynamics and fears and reactions. That whole dynamic of projection is keeping us from meeting each other consciously and collaborating as equals. It's a distraction. It is not something our species can tolerate any longer as an evolutionary dynamic, a decision-making model, a social process, a tribal process, or as a way of solving problems in our world. The solutions, some suggested solutions to narcissism or predatory dynamics or toxic narcissism or woundedness or ego process are what we're intending in the women's empowerment group and in the conscious relationship and conscious parenting groups and in the diversity team and in other teams. what might be termed the full mapping of the lower masculine, the tribal masculine, the egoic masculine, and the predatory masculine, and the tribal, egoic, and lower and predatory feminine. And because those are broken models, they can't lead to collective success. They can't lead to conscious collaboration at scale. So if we map them and we educate to them and we heal to them and we develop 12-step programs to help heal our ways out of those states collectively, then we become able to work together. So we want to help heal and empower the conscious feminine. We want to help heal and constructively empower the conscious masculine. By constructively empower, we mean without violence, without domineering or destructive intention. In our world, men are far more physically violent than women. We're not saying that women aren't verbally or energetically or emotionally violent. We're saying that men tend to be very physically violent. So whatever model of healing we produce, we feel will optimally diminish and diffuse the potential for violence, physical violence among the masculine, and violence of all kinds, and destructive and domineering characteristics of all kinds within both the feminine and the masculine simultaneously. So we're developing new relationship models, constructing them. We want to suggest practicing them, develop workshops for them, and help them proliferate in the world, create a domino effect that creates a tidal wave of positive transformational change, and empowers us to work together with less distractions from conscious collaboration. If we're in a wounded mode, a domineering mode, a predatory mode, an egoic mode, we're distracted by those ego and tribal dynamics, so much so that we can't consciously collaborate for our own well-being or for the well-being of the planet. So new models of feminine and masculine courage and of relational trust, we need them. And new models of constructive emotional relationship communications that are not rewounding or re-traumatizing or creating further limitations, or that are interpretable as aggression or violence on either side. Modeling those, proliferating those, educating those, very important. If we can't be at peace in our homes, in our families, in our relationships, how are we going to choose to work together during the future, potentially far more stressful world times than we're facing in this present moment?